Welcome to Loch Harbour Astro again, and on this particular video I'm going to go through my basic workflow for a one-shot colour image. This particular one that I've picked out is one that I shot some back in 2022, and I don't know if you can see it there, but there's the Cone Nebula and Foxfire Nebula is up there as well. This was shot with my ASI, my ZWO ASI 294 MC Pro, and I also used the ASCAR dual band filter on this one, so that brings out more of the hydrogen and oxygen in the nebulas. So as I say, I'm going to go through from start to finish and just basically show you the workflow that I've got. Again, all of my icons are on the right hand side of the screen there, and still divided up into all of the processes for the linear stage, and then the stretch, star extraction and curves, and then move on to the stuff for the finer detail, and finally noise reduction and adding the stars back in again. So without further ado, the first thing I'm going to do is actually run an automatic background extraction. That just gets rid of this green cast on the image, and then I'll be able to see better what's left around the edges from the stacking process. So I'm just going to open up automatic background extraction. I'm going to do my usual and reduce the function degree down to 1, so it's minimal. Correction is subtraction, and discard the background model and replace the target image, and then simply run that. And as I say, that will get rid of the green cast on there and show me what's in the background. There we go. Turn off the screen transfer function, turn it back on again just to refresh it, and there we go. That's a much better image. Now you see I've got I've expanded this out slightly. The area of the that I'm working on is slightly bigger than the actual image itself. That's just so that I can see what's actually at the edges here. Now looking at that, it doesn't look too bad. But what I normally do is I'll double boost the auto stretch, or the STF auto stretch, as that brings out what's actually happening in the background, and you'll see what I mean when I do it. So I boost it up again, and yeah, it's brought out a lot more of the background stuff, but you'll see that on the left hand side of the screen here there's actually some gradient just along the edge there, which is left over possibly from the stacking process. The rest of the image doesn't look too bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to run the background extractor again, either the automatic or the manual version. I'm going to open up dynamic crop, and I'm just going to crop out that little bit there. So I'm going to pull it back past it, and you'll see I'm just going to this, just taking out that, but I don't need to take it too much at the bottom. This left hand side, I'm just going to drag it in at just a tad, and the same with the top, just drag it in a tad. These bits up here are actually nebula, or dark nebula, so I want to try and leave them in there if I can. But there is just a slight hint of the stacking process in there. And that's about all I want. Execute that, and there we go. Problem solved. Take off the background extraction, and what I'm going to do now is background neutralization. Now to do that, you need to find somewhere on the image where you've actually got some background. Which is quite hard on this particular image because there's an awful lot of nebulosity in there, and that's that area there looks like it could do it, but that's looking actually more like so it's looking more like dark nebula, or a bit of the gradient on there, actually looking at that. So I'm not going to use that bit. What I'm actually going to use, I'm going to come across to this side, and there's a nice space in here. So I'm going to come up to this tool at the top, new preview mode, click on that, and that allows me to draw an area where I can actually pick the background. So I can zoom in on the area that I'm looking at, try and pick an area that's no stars, no nebulosity at all. I'm just going to pick a small area like that, and it comes up and says preview 1, and there it is over there. So if I click on that, then I'm just seeing the area that I'm looking at. So come up to background neutralization, pick your target image, which is going to be the preview 1 that I've just selected there. And there it is, preview 1, click OK, and then leave all these as defaults and apply. Now don't forget I've got the STF stretch on this, which is boosted, so that's going to do some weird things with it. So we just correct those by turning off the STF stretch and turn it back on again. And there we go, that looks a bit better. I don't need this preview anymore, so I can delete that. Saves clogging up the image. Now this is just the bog standard STF stretch. That's all I'm looking for now. So the next thing to do is go into the SPCC, so the color calibration side of it, and before you do that, then you have to tell PixInsight where you're actually looking. So to do that, come up to scripts and go to image analysis and image solver. Click on that. So once that's up and running, you'll see that it's taken a lot of detail from the FITS file. So it knows roughly where it's looking. It's got the focal length. It's got the pixel size of the camera. That's all correct. If that's not correct, or none of this or any of this is missing, then you can manually put it in. That's not a problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually search for the object. So click on the search button, and in there I type in, because it's the Cone Nebula, NGC 2264. Search, and it comes up Christmas tree or NGC 2264. So I'll click on NGC 2264, click OK, and then click OK down here. Leave everything at default. This will now run basically a plate solver, so that it knows where it's looking, and then when it's completed this particular process, then it will we can then go on to the SPCC process, having told that SPCC where it's actually looking. So I'll let this run. I'll just pause the video here and I'll come back when it's finished. And there we are, it's completed the process. There's nothing changed on the image itself, it's just that PixInsight has now registered exactly where what this image is looking at. So I can now come up to SPCC, spectrophotometric color calibration, and the standard white reference that you want on this is average spiral galaxy. Unless you're using one of the other things, then average spiral galaxy is pretty much the go-to. The QE curve I leave as is, ideal QE curve, unless you've got your camera sensor happens to be in the list here, then which mine isn't. Now you'll see here it's got red, green and blue filters. Now because I've used the ASCAR dual band filter on this, then I need to click narrow band filters mode, and you'll see that it now changes. So it's automatically gone for the HA spectrum for the red filter and the oxygen 3 for green and blue, but it's given a bandwidth of 3 nanometers, and that's not quite where the ASCAR is. ASCAR is actually up at 6 for all of these, I think. So that's what I'm going to change that to, but I am going to leave it as basically an HOO narrowband filter image, just because I've used that particular filter with it. So just remember that one's you need to do that if you've used one of these dual band filters or even a tri-band filter. So with the tri-band filter, I've got the L enhance, and with the L enhance then I use 7 nanometers for the red filter, and actually 12 for the green and the blue for the oxygen, because on that one the oxygen takes in some hydrogen Bravo as well. So that's that all set up. Generate graphs, I won't do with this one, I'll turn that off. It just generates a graph for you to have a look at on the screen. It's not really needed. And then I'll just apply that to the image, and I'll let it run through, and when we come back you'll see that these colors will have been calibrated correctly for the area of the sky that we're looking at, and they will have changed slightly. So I'll see you when this is completed. And there we are. You'll see that it's completed the process now. The reds have got a wee bit darker. I'll just turn that off. Just to make sure that I'm actually looking at the correct thing, I'll just turn off the STF stretch and turn it back on again, just to make sure. There we go. Not too bad. So the next thing on the list, you'll see I've got linear fit here. That doesn't apply to this because this is a one-shot color camera, or a one-shot color image that I've used from the start. You'd only use the linear fit on narrowband images. So the next process is normally that I use is normally Blur Exterminator, but for this one, because I'm demonstrating it, this is my full-size image. So I'm just going to use the resample tool and just reduce the image size by half, just to bring it down a wee bit. That way it doesn't take quite so long to achieve. Now with the Blur Exterminator there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either use the automatic PSF, which I normally only use for galaxies. I like to set the PSF diameter myself, and to do that I come up to scripts, render and PSF image. It's already selected this one, so I just click evaluate, and this will evaluate the image or the stars in the image, and it will come up with a figure that I can use for my PSF image there. So we'll just let that run through and we'll come back when it's finished. So there we are, that's now completed, and what we're actually looking for on here is the full width half maximum X and full width half maximum Y. So what I tend to do is I'll take these two figures here and I'll find a happy medium between the two of them. So 1.62 and 1.69. So happy medium, that's 0.07 between the two of them. So a happy medium would be probably 1.65. So 1.65 is the figure I'm going to use. I'll click OK on that and get rid of it. And on here, I come drag the slider down to 1.65 or 1.64. It's not going to give me 1.65, so I'll have to type it in. There we go, 1.65. I'm going to leave the sharpen stars at the default of 0.25. Adjust star halos at minus at the default again, and the sharpen non-stellar at 0.85. So that's that. Execute that onto the image, and hopefully it won't take too long. There we go. Rushing through quite quickly. And there we go. It's pulled the stars down. You can tell that I've just noticed there that you can tell that I've used a dual band filter because, oops, look, there's one of the telltale signs there is this pink halo around one of the stars. It does this occasionally. I'm quite fortunate. There's another one just starting there. And there's another couple up there. That's just the result of the actual filter that I use. So I'm not too worried about that. So that's Blur Exterminator done. Handy little tool. Shrinks your stars down nicely. Doesn't actually get rid of any. And just tightens up some of the nebulosity in the background. So the next thing I need to do is the stretch. So because this is a basics video, I'm just going to use the basics and pull up STF and pull up the histogram transformation tool. So I want to switch off the STF, and the easy way of doing this is, see this little nuclear button down here? If you click that, it will apply that to the image. So it's saying that overall that's an ideal stretch for this image. So if you want to use that, then bring this little triangle tool, new instance one, left click on it with the mouse button and drag that up to somewhere on this grey bar down here and drop it. Now if I go into, that's what I should have done. So I've just selected the file I'm working on here. You'll see I've got two files there. I nearly confused myself for a minute because I've got another one set in of the flaming star, which is actually sat down here in workspace 2. So that's not the one I want to work on, it's this one. So the nuclear button has applied an STF stretch to this. I've now taken what that has done, transferred it across to histogram transformation, and if that's what I want to use, then I just drag that across and apply it to the image. Now you see the image has gone white. If I click on the reset button here, it should have gone back. Turn off the STF stretch. There we go. And that's the STF stretch, the standard stretch that we want to use on that. If you want to enhance it at all, you can do using the sliders here. So it's the black point is fine. If you want to pull it up a little bit, then you can select the square button here, which should open up a preview excuse me, just get rid of that. Open up a preview window, and then I can pull that across and you'll see that the image will lighten up. Pull it back and it goes back, or I can pull it down. pull it backwards and forwards, and you'll see the effect it has on there. So I don't want to play with this. If you are messing around with this, then you want to avoid playing with the black point here, because as I'm moving that across, yeah, it darkens the image down, but what I'm actually doing here is I'm clipping data all the time. I'm moving this slider to the right, then I'm clipping all of this data here is missing now out of the image. So you want to avoid pulling that one down, and I would just stick with the midpoint slider. So I'm just going to reset that and leave it where it is. So that's the stretch done. I can take off the preview window now, and the next item on the agenda is removing the stars. So for this I tend to use Star Exterminator. You can use StarNet 2 if you've got it. It used to come with PixInsight, but there was an update recently where it disappeared, and I've not bothered putting it back on yet. There may well be an updated version available that can now be put back onto PixInsight, but I use Star Exterminator, and I'll just activate that, let it run, and just pause the video and then come back when it's completed. And there we are, stars are extracted. So I can turn off that. And with these stars here, I'm not actually going to do very much with them again. Put them into curves and pull up a preview window. I'll just enhance the saturation slightly. I don't want to do too much with these as it turns too blue in the center. If you're not into the color of the stars there, you can pull them back. I've done this in the past where I thought, no, I really don't like the color of the stars with this dual band filter, so I'll just take the color out. So I actually pull the saturation down, removing the color out of the stars and just leaving them plain white. But for this one, I'll leave some color in there, apply that, reset it, and then with the RGBK, just pull the brightness up a little bit and just bring the dark down. See what it's doing there? It's just pulling them back slightly. There we go. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do any more to the stars. So with those, I'll shrink that down and put it away up the top here. So now we're left with the background, and as you can see, there's one of my little stars there, and there's a few more around as well. There's the big one, and another one there. So if you want to get rid of those, because it's conveniently removed all the stars now and you can see the background, then we can use the clone tool. So coming up to processes, all processes, and clone stamp. With the clone stamp, I'll just remove the curves there because I'm not going to use those at the moment. With the clone stamp, I tend to use quite a large radius, softness up in the 80s, and the opacity is down around about 50%, and it produces that sort of thing. So it's not a harsh one. It's not going to create sort of strange artifacts on the image. So the first one I'm going to do is this nasty one here. So what I want to try and do is match it to this sort of area. So I'm going to click Control and press it, and then so this is the area that I'm taking a clone of. Hold it over the center there, and just 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's gone. Still a little bit in there, but it's not too bad. So I can then come over to this one. I'm only going to do one rendition there, so that one's not too bad. One over here, and maybe two. And there's another one there. With this one, I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. So take it down to 20, and you see the size of the circle has changed. I also want to change the orientation, so I'm going to take it from there and pull it out. There, gone. Now, where else have we got one? Oh, there. So that one I'm going to pull from that area there, and just go 1, 2, 3, gone. There we go. That's all of those halos disappeared now. So at the moment with Clone Stamp, all I've done is, although it looks like I've removed them off of the image itself, I need to apply that. So you need to press the green tick or the execute button to actually apply the changes that you've made there. So that's now applied, and you can see that's not looking too bad. So what do we do next? Curves. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up the preview window so that I can mess around with it without actually affecting the image itself. And I'm going to start off with some saturation and just pull some saturation into that, pulling up the reds. You can, if you want to, move that up to there, and you can pull the darker ones back a wee bit. Don't know if you can see that's what effect that's having on it. It's making it slightly more pinky in colour. So there, that's not looking too bad. Leave that like that. There. And I'll just use the C component and just pull it up a little bit. Just a bit of enhancement there. That'll do. Apply that. I prefer to make a change, apply it, make a change, apply it. Now the next one I'm going to do is the RGBK. And what I'm going to do with this is actually I'm going to pull up the light side of the curve to increase the brightness. Then I'm going to make like an S curve, so I'm going to come down to this quarter piece here and actually drag it back down to create more of an S curve, and you can see what effect that's had. So you can adjust it to your liking, so that you don't want to pull it down too far because you're blocking out a lot of the background dust in it. So just bring it back up a wee bit again, so that you've got enough dust in there. If you want to pull it up to increase the brightness of the center, then there we go. That's about where I want to be. And that's a double application of it. So you can see it's starting to pull a lot of the detail out from the gas clouds there. And if you want to change some of the stuff in there, you can have a mess around with it. So I can add some blue in there if I want to. That's making it more purple. So what I could do is I could add some more blue in to the lighter stuff and pull it away from the background. Not pulling too much away, otherwise it turns it all green. I can just bring it down so that it's a bit more natural. There. Oops. Just took a bit too much out there. There we go. That'll do. Just enhance the blue a little bit on there. And with the green, if you think there's a bit too much green in there, then you could just pull that back a little bit. Try not to make it all purple, just leave it. It doesn't take too much to change the effect on it. And there we go. As this is a demonstration, then that's where I'm going to leave it for that one. What you could do is use the luminance, the lightness, and I could actually leave those two. Put a marker there to hold that in place, put a marker in the middle to hold that in place, put a marker there to hold that in place, and then just bring down the darks, the dark background areas, just to enhance the foreground a little bit. If I want to bring up different areas, then I can bring up that bit. I can bring up the lights. It's just a question of messing around with it till you get what sort of look you're trying to achieve. So I'm just going to leave that like that. There we go. And I think I'm happy with that with the curves. So we'll shut the curves down. And there's a few other processes here. If you've got a lot of green in the background, then you can use SCNR, change the green, and set the amount that you want to remove. I haven't had to do that with this, which is quite fortunate. HDR multi-scale transformation is quite a handy tool for highlighting it, highlighting the detail of the contrast within the image. And for this one, I don't think I'm going to need it. I quite like the look of it as it is, but I'm going to apply it just to show you what the difference is. So I'm going to put a number of layers. I'm going to change to 8 and then apply that. It doesn't take too long to do this. You can have a look at it. This is trial and error. If 8 looks too much, it brightens it up too much. Actually, that's not too bad. Let's actually darken that down and just added some more contrast in there. I use these buttons up here to undo and do. So if I want to flick backwards and forwards and see what it's actually done, has it improved it at all? It's taken some of the nebulosity away, but it has highlighted the contrast. So I think I'll leave that in there. If you don't quite want as much as that, you can reduce that down to 7, or if you want a wee bit more, then we can put it up to 9. It's trial and error. It's whatever you fancy and whatever you like the look of. You can use unsharpen mask as well. Open up a preview window, and with these settings you can see what that's done. Unsharpen mask does tend to add some noise into the image, but again, if you want a nice vivid image, then it's certainly done that for you. I think the standard settings of 0.8 and 2 on the standard deviation is a little bit too much. I normally back this down to about 0.6, and then you can increase this a little bit if you want to. But actually 0.6 and 2 on the standard deviation, as that might be a little bit too much, but for demonstration purposes I'm going to leave it in there. So that's that job done. The next one is noise reduction. So you can see if I zoom in, there's a little bit of noise in the background there. This image is actually quite clean. It's not too bad at all. But I tend to leave my noise extraction until this point where I've nearly completed the image, because there, like I said, things like unsharpen mask can add noise back into it again. So some people do the noise reduction in the linear state before the stretch. I tend to do it when I've finished processing. So I'm just going to open that lot up. Now on Noise Exterminator, which is what I use, I leave the detail at 0.15. The denoise defaults to 0.9. That's going to be too much for this. It's going to just make things blurry. So the noise on this, as I say, it's not too bad. So I'm actually going to pull this down to, I'm going to give it 0.7 and then apply that and see what that's like. The advantage is that if you don't like it, you can use the back button so you can undo it and apply a different amount of denoise on it. But there we go, that's that finished now. So when I zoom in, and if we come back out, you can see the difference that that's made. It's not added any detail in there. It's not taken any of the detail away. It's just reduced the noise, which is what it's there for. So I think if I'd add any more in there, then I think it would have started blurring out some of the detail. As it is, I think it's quite nice. So the final thing to do, we need to add the stars back in. So for this, we come to Pixel Math, and I use the create a new image. That way, if I don't like it, then I can delete it, and I've still got the stars in the background separate on the screen. So easy way of doing it, expression editor, and I'm going to got to make sure I'm doing the right one here. So, right. The easy way of doing this is with Pixel Math is pick your background, hit the plus sign, and hit your stars. So it's background plus stars. Easy. Click OK, and then for this, apply. And there you go. That's the easy way around it. You just add in the stars back in. I've got on some of the other videos I've used a slightly different calculation on it, which softens the stars down a little bit, but that's the easy way of doing it, and this is the basics video. So there we go, and that is your finished image, and I shall just pull it out and increase it for you. So there we go, that's put the stars back in there nicely, and that's their full size for the image, and you see there's lots of detail in there. It's all nicely done, and I'm quite happy to save that. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's been useful to you, and if it has, then please leave a comment on this particular video. If there's anything else that you want to see me do, anything you're struggling with at all, then please let me know. Thanks very much indeed.